we're good to go.
We're good to go, okay. Welcome to the October 23rd, 2025 public hearing for the Planning Board of the Town of Southampton. We'll have a roll call, please.
Chair LaFaro.
Present.
Vice Chair Finity.
Present.
The Secretary is here. Board Member Mutu is absent. Board Member Neely.
Present.
Board Member Fulham.
Present.
Board Member Glazer.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Since we have a pretty full room, I just want to go over some safety issues that in case of an emergency, there are 2 doors that go out, 2 staircases that go down, and you'd go out the front door. Okay? So given that, we're going to go in the order of the agenda, and that means 94 Dune Road Holding Corp. Will be first. And since it was adjourned the last time, we do not need to reread the notice into the record. So, John, do you want to? Yeah.
My name is John Bennett. I'm here with Kim Gennaro from PW Grosser, as well as some of the project principals. The purpose of this hearing is to hear public comment. We've made a very extensive presentation on this matter. So this is a hearing on the DEIS, so we're just here to listen to comment, as are you.
Great,
Nothing else
thank
to
you. Okay, so I do have a sign-in sheet, and I'll call everybody in the order that you signed in, and then if anyone else would like to speak as well. So Suzanne Jansen.
Dear members of the Town Planning Board, as homeowners in East Quogue at 101 Erie Way, my husband and I do not support the application under your consideration for a 25-unit conversion at the current site of Docker's Restaurant on 94 Dune Road. This development would pose a significant ecological threat to the area. The wetlands are crucial for maintaining the health of our water table and supporting the diverse wildlife and flora. Furthermore, the density in this development would exacerbate existing challenges on Dune Road, which is already susceptible to increasing storms and rising sea levels. The site can accommodate only 1, at most 2 homes, not a 25-unit condominium with parking for 45 or more individuals, as well as pool, tennis court, and septic system. As members of Southampton's Planning Board, we rely on your commitment to enhancing the ecological and environmental well-being of our community. Therefore, we urge you to exercise your judgment and vote against this proposal. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Gregory Kalnitsky.
Good evening. My name is Greg Kalnitsky. I'm with Fercelli Deegan Tirana, 333 Earl Ovington Boulevard, Uniondale, New York. I represent John Katzimatidis, who lives across the street from 94 Dune Road. I will be joined today by my colleague Andrew Millspaugh, Vice President of Sterling Engineering. He's from out of town, around the Albany area, and severely underestimated the power of Long Island traffic, but he should be joining us shortly. He's generated a full comment letter for the board's review. I've supplied a copy to Mr. Trezza. I have an additional copy here, and when he arrives, he will be giving copies to the board. Should I?
Great.
I have one. That's all.
Okay. So, you're welcome. In the event there are any engineering questions specific, I would ask that you hold off just until Mr. Millspaugh walks through the door.
Okay.
So first, let's talk about what an EIS is and is not. The document is intended to analyze in an impartial way any potential significant adverse impact of a development. Then it's supposed to analyze how to mitigate or avoid those impacts. It's It's not supposed to present the project spun in the best light possible. It's not supposed to omit information that isn't favorable. And I'd submit to you that the EIS before the board is more of a sales deck than an impartial analysis of impacts and how to mitigate them. The DEIS was required to identify and analyze several potential significant impacts that may result if the proposed 25-unit condominium were approved. I'll now go through several sections of the DEIS with reference to comments made by our engineers. And I'll do my best to explain things simply and clearly so that non-engineers such as myself can understand them. The project need, objectives, and benefits. So the DEIS asked the applicant to analyze that. Specifically, the final scope asked the applicant to identify how 25 dwelling units was determined to be appropriate for the site when compared to what's allowed in the underlying R80 zone. The R80 zone, per the applicant's DEIS, would permit a single-family home. There is absolutely no explanation, as required by the final scope, about how you get from a single-family home to a 25-unit multiple dwelling in a zoning district where multiple dwellings are not permitted. This is an explanation that was required by the board and an explanation that was overlooked or ignored. The DEIS refers to a precedent for changing a restaurant to a condominium within the town, which they refer to as the salty dog. However, precedent is a very difficult standard to achieve. As you all know, property is something that is very unique. Unless that property substantially matches the many variables a property may have, it is not precedent. As this board knows, each property, each application, each project is analyzed on its own merit. While the DEIS does not analyze and compare the salty dog to the application herein, only citing it as precedent in conclusory fashion, we will provide the analysis comparing that project to this one. The salty dog involved the reconstruction of an existing building, whereas here, something new is constructed in a new location on the site. The salty dog is about 23 miles away from this proposed development in Sag Harbor. This development is in the middle of a scenic bypass in East Quogue. The salty dog is not located in the wetlands in an environmentally sensitive zone. This project is. The salty dog required limited site alteration, whereas here, we need to truck in tons of fill and raise the elevation of the entire parcel by several feet to even make it buildable. The salty dog reduced the square footage of the existing building. This application is enlarging it. The salty dog was found to reduce water and sewer usage, and we intend to demonstrate to you that converting a seasonal restaurant into a year-round multiple dwelling, as the DEIS indicates, would result in an increase in water and sewage. The salty dog reduced lot area coverage. This application increases it. The ZBA decision for the salty dog seems to indicate that the restaurant use was undesirable in that area, where in this case, though the restaurant use is non-conforming, it is one of the only places where neighbors can meet each other and enjoy a meal. In that regard, it's a cultural and community resource, and it constitutes a very desirable use that the neighbors have become accustomed to and enjoy.
Excuse me, Mr. Kalinsky, we have a lot of people here that have to speak, so if you could keep your comments and then give us your comments, we'd appreciate it.
I have quite a lot to say. Do you want me to wait until the end?
Maybe you can, because we have a lot of people
Sure.
who need to speak. I appreciate your
Okay, if you
cooperation.
could give me a second call, Madam Chair, I'd
Thanks.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Not quite sure I understand this. Is it Claire Manson? Is it Claire?
It's Karen.
Karen, okay.
My
Thank
name is
you.
Karen Manson. I'm a longtime resident in Quogue. 23 Wood Edge Trail. I'm not as prolific a speaker as the previous one. I just wanted to say that I am very concerned and very interested in the ecological development of our neighborhood and environmental concerns, and I'm particularly troubled about the impact of such a large development as proposed on the Docker site on the wetlands and consequently the bird life and the fish, and also the resulting, well, Dune Road has a very severe flooding problem as it is, and I think that such a large construction will only increase the problems that we have in driving in that area. going forward. So I just want to thank you for your time and let you know my thoughts that I'm opposed to the current project development.
Thank you very much. Yolande Hadlock?
Hi. No, I'm just I was speaking for her also. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
so that's great, thank you. Richard Sussman?
Hi, I'm Richard Sussman. I'm the president of Brown Dude, which is right across the street from Dockers. And we do have counsel and we do have an engineer who will present a myriad of facts and problems with the current proposal. But I would just like to point out, and there are 5 other people here from Round Dune at the moment. I would just like to point out that, you know, we do live already in a severely challenged environment. The last speaker mentioned the flooding of the roads, and it happens regularly. I'm sure you all know. We have certain videos of those which I think are going to be put into the record. One as recently from August, which shows about 3 feet of water on the road, which makes it virtually impassable for hours and hours and hours. And obviously having more homes in there just does not help that. We're also obviously living in an area where erosion from the ocean side is a problem. You know, we do have, thanks to you allowing us geocubes at the moment, which you know, have helped. Luckily, they haven't been too challenged at the moment, but should anything severe come in, they will help. And, you know, we just think adding to the density, if you will, of it will only make it worse. And there's obviously a lot of reasons about what will be worse that you'll hear later as well. That's pretty much it. Also, for where we are, aside from the scenic views generally, our views will be dramatically affected by 3-story condos right in front of us. We've asked repeatedly for actual comparative elevations to actually see what it will look like and have not been provided with them. So that's something, you know, that we felt was important and was never provided. But we are greatly, greatly concerned about that as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Could I just say that if any speakers have technical data or engineering data, it's going to be more productive to submit that data in writing to the board members, because it's going to be hard to follow some, you know, anything that's dense or technical.
Anything that I mentioned will be.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
good.
Thank you so much.
Joan McGovern?
Good evening, Joan McGivern from Toomey Latham. We represent Round Dune and its 76 unit owners. Round Dune, together with Mr. Kalnitsky's client, retained Andrews Millsborough of Sterling Engineering, which he kindly provided a report with, and when our engineer gets here, we'll present it further. But I want to defer my time to Greg, who was prepared to present in summary form the engineer's comments.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Bob DeLuca?
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Planning Board. My name is Bob DeLuca, and I serve as president of Group for the East End. For the record, Group for the East End is a professional environmental organization representing the conservation and community planning concerns of several thousand member households across the 5 East End towns since 1972. And we presently have more members from Southampton town than any other East End community. In December of 2020, we submitted detailed scoping comments on the subject proposal, which among other issues focused on the importance of alternatives consideration for this project site in large part due to its environmental vulnerability, storms, flooding, wastewater disposal, climate change, you name it. More recently, in our initial comments on the DEIS, they were provided back in July by the Director of Conservation Advocacy. Those are in your file, and I just refer you to those. And that focused in part on the importance, again, of proposed alternatives, which is where I'll pick things up this evening. In short, the subject property's present use is just an artifact of development permitted long before local governments fully understood or valued the long-term importance and environmental consequences of shoreline development. Thankfully, as early as 1972, the town of Southampton, after completing its first comprehensive plan, began to come to terms with the implications of shoreline development, and as a result, rezoned the subject parcel from beach business to R80 to control density and to protect natural resources, and that was more than 50 years ago. Since that time, the subject property has been a pre-existing non-conforming status through which it continued to operate legally in a commercial capacity. That said, it's fundamental and a tenet of zoning that pre-existing non-conforming uses are intended to come more closely or fully into conformity over time, and this might be a chance to do that. Having said that, however, what's essential to your consideration of the proposal is an objective comparison between what the potential impacts would be of site development under present zoning, as it has been intended for decades, alongside the applicant's proposed action, whose proposed density is some 25 times higher than the single-family residential unit that might be permitted under the existing zoning. Now, simply stated, all conversions to a residential use are not created equal, and it's entirely possible to create a residential proposal that, while arguably more conforming in terms of its formal use, that being residential versus commercial, can also be equally or even more harmful to the surrounding community and environment than the present or alternate uses over time. Fortunately, the secret process provides, and your board has wisely required, that the applicant provide a comparison in the DEIS so that the public and town decision makers can fairly evaluate exactly how the proposed action might come into conformity with the goals of low-density residential use. And using that information, all you need to do is look at the comparative assessment between the as-of-right residential development, that's the one lot on this property, provided on page 164 of the DEIS, and you'll find that compared to the underlying zoning, the applicant's currently proposed action requires twice the lot coverage and would produce a 13-fold increase in population density, a 25-fold increase in wastewater generation, a 7-fold increase in nitrogen generation, a 12-fold increase in solid waste generation, a 16-fold peak hour traffic increase, and the list goes on. I should also mention that the reduced density alternative, which isn't reduced by much, does only modestly better, but is still far more impactful to the environment and surrounding community than the intended low-density residential zoning would allow. As a result, and based on the information available, it's our view that the best long-term outcome for this parcel is ultimately a public acquisition for preservation and water access, given all the limitations for development on this site and the inevitable and impending consequences of sea level rise. Understanding that such an acquisition would require a willing seller and interest by the town, at this point, all we have to do is to urge the board to reject the present proposal, explore preservation, and seek an alternative that far more closely resembles the low-density underlying zoning that the town has intended for this site for over 50 years. I very much appreciate your time and consideration of these remarks and would ask only for a reasonable written comment period to follow up on tonight's hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Marissa Bridge?
Good evening. My name is Marissa Bridge. I'm the president of the East Quogue Civic Association and the Beautification Committee. I live at 5 Weezuck Avenue in East Quogue. I've heard from a large number of our membership who are against the plans before this board for the site located at 94 Dune Road in East Quogue. Everyone feels this project is too large for the site and will contribute significantly to the pollution of the waterways and wetlands. This area is already negatively impacted, and this project will only make things worse. Please say no to this application. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Christina Richmond?
Hi, my name is Christina Richmond. I'm a resident of Quogue at 19 Post Lane.
And I'm just speaking from a standpoint of being a mother, raising kids in the area, and recently volunteering to rescue wildlife. And I'm extremely concerned about the construction site, the traffic it's going to bring, the wildlife. I would often drive my children down there to show them the beauty of nature. And to take them down there and to look up at a building, we might as well be back in New York City. The flooding is incredible over the years. You don't drive through, you turn around, roads are closed. I don't think tenants coming in would be very pleased to know that that's what they bought into. And honestly, to have to rescue more animals because they have nowhere to go. Their homes are taken away from the trucks coming in, the dunes being disrupted because trucks happen to go over on that side of the road. I think it's very disruptive and unnecessary. We have enough building here. We need to keep nature where it belongs. We need to learn to live like this. We have enough built, enough big homes, enough fences around our yards. We need to preserve what we have and really take advantage of it, look at it and appreciate it. It's not being appreciated. It's being looked at monetarily. What can we get for this? We need to stop doing that, and I think we can do it, starting here. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth Crowley?
My comments have already been covered by the previous.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Deborah Diston.
Hi, so my name's Deborah Diston. I live at 119 Dune Road, which is literally about 1.5 miles down from Round Dunes. And all I can say to you people who want to build this is shame on them. Shame on them. My family has lived here for such a long time. I've kayaked hundreds and hundreds of times from our dock down to Dockers, from across the Shinnecock Bay to Dockers. First of all, that is one of the most beautiful properties to go through. If you kayak along those estuaries, you see dozens of different wildlife, endless amounts of wildlife. Second of all, at low tide, there is absolutely no way you can get a boat to that location. I've literally walked kayaks to the dock at Dockers because they got stuck in the low tide. I have to ask, what is the insanity here that you think that it's okay to approve the construction of such a large facility on some of the most precious, precious piece of land we have? And without question, I can tell you from living on the canal side of Dune Road that we have personally seen the deterioration of the water quality in the canal, especially when we have an abundance of people here in the summer. It used to be that the tides that go through the inlets and wash through and storms would clear the water, but it is no longer. It is not that way. And if this construction happens, this building happens in that location, it is going to contribute tenfold to the problems that we already have. It will be counterproductive to what the Cornell Cooperative has been doing for oyster production farming in the areas so that we can clean the water. I mean, do you ever go out on the water in a boat? Have you ever seen how murky it gets in the summertime when we have this plethora of boats and we have the golf courses that are being covered with fertilizer and we have the leaching into, we are living on sand piles. There is nothing to keep the leaching of any kind of oil flow from Dune Road or any kind of septic that gets into the ground or fertilizer. We are in a sponge, and all of that material goes right into our beautiful water and into our wetlands, and it's slowly killing our wildlife and our water. I ask that you stop this insanity of this incredibly selfish group of people that clearly this only has monetary value to them. There is no redeeming quality whatsoever in terms of enhancing the beauty of the area. There's absolutely nothing that will improve the quality of the life of the wildlife here and the safety of our water. Just think about it. We are living on a sand pit. So we need to stop the craziness of putting buildings on it and protect the land and protect our water. We have nothing to offer the younger generations to come. And I want to also say I'm incredibly grateful that we have engineers and people that have the ability to provide data and analysis, and I hope that you pay attention to them and what they have to say. And
Thank you.
I will also do everything in my power to stop this. If it requires putting picket lines in front or rallying against it, it's definitely not going to stop here with me.
Thank you. Ann Algieri?
Ann Algieri from East Quogue. I do sit on the Town Conservation Board, but I am not speaking for the board. They have sent their comments in on this project, but I'm speaking just as a resident of East Quogue. I'm not going to repeat what the previous speaker said, but I am in agreement. When she talks about the environment, I think of all the work they've done on the eastern part of the canal, and it's worked. You know, they've really helped bring that back. I think of Moriches Bay and what they've done there, and you can now eat the clams and the oysters from there. This part of the bay, the health is still very, very compromised, but it can come back. If this project goes through, it won't, in my estimation, in my thoughts and opinion. We have here now a non-conforming use with the restaurant, and it's grandfathered and it's legal. What they are asking for is another non-conforming use. They're not bringing it, you know, into conformity with our 80 zoning. So you have a site plan in front of you. You don't have to approve it. You can either accept it or you can reject it. So why would you bring a plan that is even more non-conforming than the one that is there now? That I don't understand. There's many concerns. You know, there's the environment, there is the water, what will leach in there. It's in a flood zone. You'll have traffic problems. I mean, there are so many concerns. The environment, the quality of life, the scenic view. I mean, I've seen drawings of what's being proposed. In my estimation, in my view, it belongs in Canarsie, not in Southampton town. So I ask that you reject it. You don't have to accept the site plan. You can reject it. And I hope you do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ann. Is there someone on Zoom?
No, no one has their hand up.
Does anyone else wish to speak who hasn't spoken?
Well, I had conceded some of my time so that Greg could cover the rest. I don't know if you want to allow him to speak further.
How much time do you need, Greg, to read? It was a fairly detailed report, which we'd hope you could submit to us so that we can you give just a summary of it for everyone's benefit?
It's an explanation, okay,
Yeah.
of the engineering report that we've submitted. I think it could add value. I mean, the DEIS in itself, I think it was over 1,100 pages. It took me 2 days just to read through it.
Yeah.
I'm just asking for your indulgence, 20 minutes maybe.
Do we have the report available?
I submitted a courtesy copy to Mr. Trezza. Unfortunately, our engineer is caught in some traffic. He should be here any moment.
Okay.
Jackie, there is someone
Do
on
it,
Zoom now.
if you can capsulize certain parts of that.
Sure.
We
Seemed
would
like
appreciate
it seemed like you were highlighting the apples to apples comparison, and that's something that I was very interested to see, that analysis. So if you don't mind, maybe we could zero in on that to understand what's there now, what would be allowable under current zoning, and then what is being proposed.
Yeah, and I'll try to analyze it through the various lenses that the DEIS does. I'm not going to sit here and read 1,100 pages. Just a couple of minutes. If you want me to move along, I'll move along.
Yeah.
I won't take offense to that, Madam
Okay,
Chair, if I'm
great.
talking too long on a subject,
Appreciate
okay?
it.
And we will read everything you submit afterwards.
You submitted the document. right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'll have additional copies shortly. All right, so when we last left off, we were talking about the salty dog. I won't belabor that point. We don't consider it precedent to, as a conversion from a restaurant use to a a multiple dwelling use. In the DEIS, there are several bullet points the applicant leaves on pages 4 and 5 in support of changing the nonconforming use to another. One of them is that they indicate that the residential use is less intensive than the restaurant use. We submit to you that that's not the case. The restaurant use is seasonal, requires no site alteration or trucking in over 3,500 cubic yards of soil. The residential use that is proposed will require extensive site alteration. Said 3,500 cubic yards just to make it buildable, okay? If you have to truck in soil on over 100 trucks just to make a site buildable, I'd submit to you that that site is not appropriate for that type of development. The residential use will require driving many foundation piles and will also require the installation of a permanent stormwater and wastewater infrastructure that will require continuous operation and maintenance. The restaurant use can function as is without any installation of utilities of that nature. Second point is the applicant states that the proposed high-density multiple dwelling use is consistent with the surrounding residential land use. Nothing could be further from the truth. You heard the neighbors here. To the east and west of Dockers is empty space, open water, wetlands, and natural beauty. Everything else besides the Round Dune development is single-family homes on large parcels. Where the applicant can as of right build one dwelling unit, they're proposing 25. How is that the character of the neighborhood? When the Round Dune development was built, which is what the applicant was referring to establish the character of the neighborhood, the area was classified as a different zone that permitted it as of right. That has long since changed. Multiple dwellings are no longer a permitted use, and they're not permitted for a reason. The location isn't suitable for it. I'm joined by counsel for Round Dune. One of the items that I was going to provide to the board is a video taken on August 21st by Mr. Richard Sussman of the Round Dune showing localized flooding in just a minor rainstorm. I'm just going to submit it up and I'll continue. Reference to a single pre-existing non-conforming use as indicative of the predominant surrounding land use is just inappropriate. I may be able to accept that characterization of the neighborhood if there was like a row of multiple dwellings or many multiple dwellings, but there is only one. And that one building has significant issues in maintaining because of its location, which you've heard about, which include geocubes, erosion, wind, and so forth. The DEIS's comparison of their proposed project density as being less dense than the Round Dune is flawed. Putting aside the fact that it's a pre-existing non-conforming use, the Town of Southampton Master Plan indicates that the maximum density should not exceed 1.4 persons per developable acre. Further acknowledges that many areas already exceed that density, which would mean that the future population density should be even lower. The target in the master plan is 0.7 persons per acre for suburban and beach residence areas, which is what 94 Dune Road is. What's the applicant proposing here? It's 18 people per acre. That's 25 times the target density of the master plan. The DEIS attempts to compare the applicant's proposed development to the requirements of the MF44 zoning district because it's the only zoning district that permits multiple dwellings. As a preliminary matter, that zoning district is tiny. There are about 4 developments that it applies to, which indicates that you could only get that zone in a change of zone application before the town board. The first is Spionk Commons Apartment Complex, a transit-oriented development near the train station in Spionk. The other is Heatherwood Communities on Montauk Highway, located close to Highway 27. Southampton Commons at Hubbard Lane, also in close proximity to Highway 27. And Mecox Landing on Bay Avenue, also close to Highway 27. None of those developments are in environmentally sensitive locations, on scenic bypasses, or on barrier islands. Rather, they're located next to significant highways or railroad stations, which is where multiple dwellings are appropriately located. They shouldn't be in the middle of a protected scenic bypass on a barrier island smack in the middle of the wetlands. The MF44 requires 11,000 square feet per dwelling unit for multiple dwellings. The applicant proposes 25 units, but the MF44 would only permit 13. That's assuming they meet the lot size requirements, which they wouldn't. There's no explanation as to why the applicant would seek to have the double the amount of density than the most density permissive zone in the town. The change of one non-conforming use to another is something akin to a change of use. I typically represent developers, and what we always tell them when they get the change of use is don't come back and ask for variances. You're already given a gift. Try to keep it as close to the code as possible. Here, we see essentially a change of zone, but one that's about double the density that would otherwise be permitted on that zone, which would also require area variances for dimensional limitations and lot limitations as well. The applicant asserts that the residential use is consistent with Suffolk County Planning Commission's Smart Communities Through Smart Growth Plan. They repeatedly cite provisions of that plan that state there's a need to site multifamily residential uses near community services and transit to limit dependence on automobiles for the higher population that would live in those buildings. This is exactly what the proposed development before you doesn't do. The site is nowhere near community services and nowhere near transit. It sits on a barrier island on a scenic bypass that's only accessible by bridge, which I am informed is under repair and has weight restrictions, and I'm referring to the Ponquag Bridge. The area is also characterized by seasonal uses, residential and commercial. Dockers is a seasonal use. The applicant proposes here a full-time year-round use in this seasonal area as indicated in their DEIS. Citing a year-round high-density residential use in a seasonal use area with very limited community services and access to transit is not consistent with that plan. Moreover, the plan encourages new developments to utilize existing infrastructure to support the developments. This development doesn't do that. It needs installation and maintenance of a sewage treatment plant, demolishing and replacing the existing water service, and installing a new service connection. Furthermore, the sewage treatment plant that they propose to install will require a continuous power source, or a power failure may result in a sewage backup that could devastate the area. To mitigate against that risk, the applicant needs some type of a generator, or as they describe in their DEIS, battery energy storage, BESS. BESS, as you probably know, stands for battery energy storage, like the BESS at Cove Hollow Road in East Hampton that went up in flames a couple of years ago. The DEIS does not discuss the type of BESS that will be required by the development. It does not explore consistency with the recently enacted town code regulating BESS, nor does it provide any specifications of the proposed BESS. In fact, if the applicant is proposing a BESS, the newly enacted town code restricts BESS in residential zones even if they are a Tier 1 battery, which is defined as 600 kilowatt hours or less. Thus, the installation of a BESS may require a use variance, which I do not believe the applicant would qualify for. The applicant should be required to fully detail the BESS specifications and analyze consistency with the town code. The next bullet point in the DEIS provides a description of tidal wetlands and natural upland communities with no supporting information on how 25 dwelling units were determined to be appropriate. The bullet point after that discusses impervious lot coverage, also with no supporting information on how a 25-unit density was determined to be appropriate. And the board should know that the DEIS repeatedly misrepresents that gravel roads and driveways are pervious and will reduce impervious surfaces on the sites. However, the New York State DEC considers gravel roads and parking areas to be impervious. The applicant in their DEIS implicitly agrees with that by assigning a runoff coefficient of 0.9 to that surface, which means 90% of the water that hits it will not be absorbed. But where will that water be running off? Dune Road, which already floods during minor rainstorms, as you could see through that video.
I was having issues here and everything, trying to pull it up, but I'm putting it in the record, and I'll check it again.
Thank you. Is it going to go in the wetlands, estuaries, and channels? Perhaps Shinnecock Bay? The DEIS should be updated to reflect that the proposed gravel roads and parking areas are impervious and that they're characterized as such in their report. The applicant further indicates they will contribute to the Town of Southampton Community Housing Opportunity Fund with no information on how 25 dwelling units was determined to be appropriate and no quantifiable data about how a contribution to that fund would benefit the community vis-a-vis obtaining approvals for their proposed development. Nor is there any information on why a 25-unit development would be appropriate relative to the potential economic benefits of construction, purchasing power, and tax generation. Now that we've discussed why we believe their conclusions as to the benefit of the project are flawed, we will now discuss the potential significant impacts that the DEIS fails to address or misrepresents. Soil and topography is the first topic.
Greg, you have about 5 or 6 minutes to finish up. You've been going for 15. Just highlight your bullet points to us.
It's hard. I mean, this is
I
technical
know,
information.
I know it's hard, but,
So,
I mean, the chairwoman's being very generous.
Okay.
Usually, I mean, if you were before the Suffolk County Legislature, they'd be getting the hook at 3 minutes, so.
okay.
It's good points and, you know, we can,
The soil fill is going to create severe problems. The noise from that potential issue is not analyzed at all in the application. They're going to be required to install an unknown number of timber piles struck down to a depth of 32 to 42 feet. We don't know how many piles, how they're being driven, or the effect of the vibration on the neighborhood. As far as water resources are concerned, surface water, groundwater, and flooding, a groundwater elevation of 2.1 feet is recommended in their 2025 geotechnical report, but they use dated numbers in their design located in Appendix D, I believe. There is a serious issue with respect to the bottom depths of the wastewater leaching galley, which is a component of the sewage treatment plant. That could result in a backup in the sewage system, which would result in sewage overflowing onto adjacent properties. The increasing severities of the storms, the stormwater systems on the site are only designed for 3-inch 24-hour rain events. The design standards in other places, for example, Nassau County, is 8 inches. Sometimes you can get a waiver of 5. We believe that 3 inches is wholly insufficient, and it will result in flooding in the area because the stormwater system will not be able to contain it. We found that the DEIS also uses the wrong wastewater loading rate for the maximum allowable water discharge. I won't bore you with the details because they're all in the report. They don't have a gravity flow sewage system. They have a pump station, which requires continuous power sources. The design standards in the Suffolk County Department of Health strongly recommend gravity-related pumpage. The sewage treatment plant requires a 24-hour-a-day operator. There's no indication in the report about how that's going to happen, how the developer or any HOA is going to be able to retain a full-time operator and have a contingency plan to ensure that operator is available to address any issues. They don't evaluate the frequency of sludge removal from the STP and the associated odor impact and odor mitigation that they are required to evaluate. And this is an important point regarding nitrogen loading, okay? The long and the short of it, and if you take anything out of my presentation, I hope that it's this, is that they estimate a seasonal, they don't take into account that Dockers is a seasonal use. Based on the numbers gathered by our engineers, the high-level conclusion is, with the STP and the year-round multiple dwelling use, it will result in significantly more nitrogen loading in the area than is currently the case with the cesspool. The details and calculations are detailed in the engineer's report. We're very concerned about flooding as far as this area being in a flood zone, and Superstorm Sandy, which wasn't even a Category 1 storm, resulted in a 5-foot surge in East Quogue and caused some serious damage. We think that the applicant should need to take a heavy look, because if you hit a Category 4 storm surge, it will cause a significant impact to the structure and imperil life and safety. Trying to move this along as best as I can. I understand that you've afforded me a great courtesy, so I'm just going to say this, all right? Sacha Baron Cohen, who is the famed Ali G of HBO's The Ali G Show, used to have a saying, you got to check yourself before you wreck yourself. To me, that's what the environmental review process is. And I'll add to Ali G's saying that if you don't do the checking, prepare for a wrecking. We've identified a plethora of material, all discussed in Sterling Engineering's report, that hasn't been sufficiently analyzed or analyzed at all. We've identified real, serious impacts that may result if this project were to be approved that could threaten public health and public safety. Let's not wreck the beautiful and desirable, quaint community of East Quogue. Let's not scar the scenic bypass along Dune Road. Let's not take away an important community resource with public access to the waterfront, which is contradicted by every single applicable government policy. I think it's beyond the shadow of a doubt that the DEIS submitted by the applicants is grossly insufficient, and I think it's crystal clear if you read over our engineer's comments that the DEIS, as submitted, is wholly inadequate, such that this board cannot accept it as final and adopt findings on it. But there's something that the board does have sufficient information for between the DEIS and Sterling Engineering's report. You can come to the final conclusion that this site is not suitable for the type of development that is proposed. We ask you to make that finding because it is the only finding that makes sense under the circumstances. Thank you for the time and your indulgence.
Thank you. Do you have that report in digital format?
Yes, I will.
Can you send it to Anthony and he'll distribute it to us?
I'll forward it to him right away.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you very much for such a thorough report.
Sterling Engineering, who has
Yeah.
the report.
Yeah, and may I make a couple?
Just a couple
Yeah,
of comments, and thank you for persevering the traffic.
No, obviously, I am not from here, so allocating as much time as I thought was necessary
You
wasn't
have to
sufficient.
double it. You have to double it.
Have to double it, but what I do is, Andrew Millspaugh, Sterling Environmental Engineering, Vice President, we're out of Albany, New York. I represent developers, town designated engineer for municipalities, and I sit on my own planning board. So I know all facets of the planning process, and even though I'm not from here, I review DEISs all the time, and what is clear, also I do appreciate that you put your meetings on Zoom, because I was able to listen to it all the way up to being here, so that was great. A lot of the comments, highlight that it's pretty crystal clear that the proposed use is not suitable for the location. All the things that would have to go into making the site usable for that proposed use highlight that fact. And the two things I want to point out, just in addition to everything else that was said today, is one big data gap in the DEIS in terms of applicable plans and guiding documents is the Superstorm Sandy review report. And there's some cursory references to it in the DEIS, but the overall takeaway from that report is future planning should not put people in harm's way. It should not put people and high-density developments in locations that are known to be susceptible to severe storms, and severe storms that are only going to get worse with time. The plan is pretty clear, and I didn't put quotes on this because it's not verbatim from the report, but it says specifically, the siting of a year-round, high-density residential use in a vulnerable coastal area puts more people in harm's way as the frequency and intensity of extreme storms are expected to increase over time. So I think that's something that has to weigh, heavily in the the benefits of the project versus the significant adverse impacts. And the second thing that I just wanted to highlight is the cumulative impacts. I don't think the DIS fully evaluates the cumulative impacts. It goes through discretely of what they feel are the individual impacts, but in particular, the construction process, just to get to it to be buildable, is going to have a lot of cumulative impacts from the significant trucking, whether that's over, there's a load restricted bridge, so does that mean they have to come through smaller communities now with the trucks to get onto the island? There's not enough information about the driving of the piles, 45-foot piles driven into the ground with a vibratory hammer. That's going to impact not only the residents, but it's going to impact the wildlife. Similarly, bringing in all the fill has to be compacted with a vibratory roller. All those things are going to have a cumulative impact, and the amount of time that it takes is underrepresented in the DIS from some of the assumptions about the construction. And then, as was mentioned with the routine flooding, there's no weather delays accounted for in the construction schedule, which are going to happen. So that construction schedule that's represented is going to be significantly longer than is actually represented, and that's assuming everything goes accordingly. With this much site alteration, it's likely that there will be delays or snags. Last thing I'll leave with is the water table elevation. I don't know if it was mentioned, I know we mentioned it in our first letter in July, just that they're still continuing to use the older groundwater data. And when you look at the design groundwater elevations that are recommended by the geotech report, that groundwater is going to be higher than what's represented, and they have infrastructure that's proposed to be built below that water table, which is going to require dewatering. The DIS says there may be dewatering, but there will be dewatering, and significant dewatering. Some of the pump chambers depths are upwards of 8 feet below the water table, which is, to make that construction happen, you have to dewater that excavation and manage all that water for the entire time that has to be left open. So I think there's a lot of concerns. I think it's clear that the DIS is lacking, but even with the responses or the additional studies that we're recommending, I don't think it's going to change the outcome that it's not suitable, it doesn't mitigate the adverse impacts, and it's a project that, as it's presented, should be denied. So thank you for your time. Sorry I'm late.
Thank you.
but
Thank
I
you for
appreciate
coming
it.
all the way out. We greatly appreciate it.
Can I ask a question of the engineer? So if I could ask you a question. So I'm really glad that you came, because when we first looked at this project, the rationale for the less intense use was the output of nitrogen based on upgrading the septic system. And so I think in your report on page 6, it says that the wrong wastewater loading rate is used, right? Because it's actually increasing the wastewater flow. And I wondered if, from an engineering perspective, if you could just outline that, that impact. Obviously, yes, we are concerned about nitrogen output, but
Right.
also the impact of the increased flow rate.
So the main thing to summarize as plainly as possible is currently there's a septic system out there which has the highest nitrogen release out of the options: conventional system, innovative alternative system, STP. Dockers currently has the conventional and a lower flow rate. The proposed use will have a higher flow rate with a lower nitrogen, discharge. But when you read the report and when you read our letter, they're coming to that conclusion using a model with 18 or so parameters, and you can tweak any one of those parameters, and if any of them are wrong, and if any of them are significantly wrong, it can change the outcome of the findings, whether one is greater than the other. And the couple things in there: one, they overestimate the flow out of Dockers using tabulated values, like a restaurant per seat will have this much discharge. A tennis court, which it doesn't have anymore, I don't believe it's a parking lot, has this many gallons per day of discharge. We are able to get the actual metered water use from Dockers. It's publicly available information if you FOIL it. And the water use is actually a lot less than the tabulated values that they were assuming in the report. The other thing that's not considered is there's what appears to be readily available grant funding to upgrade septic systems to the innovative, the not STPs, but the innovative alternative systems. So if you consider that Dockers or whatever down the line chooses to do that, makes use of that funding and upgrades their system, that significantly drops the nitrogen loading out of the septic system. And the benefit of a septic system in these locations where you don't have municipal sewer is they run on gravity. Gravity doesn't stop. The STP has to continue, as long as there's flow coming in, you have to keep processing it or it's going to back up. And their challenge is, it's challenging to do that. So does that answer the question, or do you have any?
Thank you. And I think, just in terms of, basic middle school science, designing an experiment, you have constants and variables. What you're saying is that they used a variable to design this outcome of this experiment, not the constant, which is the gallons per day flow.
Yeah, and then the gallons per day flow, they put over the whole year, which Dockers is
Seasonal.
is seasonal. The model that was used, which one of the comments we had was how widespread is that model actually used for nitrogen loading, and it wasn't readily available to find online and download to check, to check the input parameters to make sure there was not an issue with how they ran the model. But the biggest one was the not accounting for the seasonal use of Dockers. And that, some minor ones, but ones that make a difference are, fertilizer application is one, and they assume that all grass on the property has fertilizer applied, but you readily go to Dockers' website and they say under their green practices they don't use fertilizer. So there's some readily available basic information that probably should have been a 0, not an actual input number to overestimate the nitrogen that's coming out of Dockers currently.
Yeah, I just think that's a critical component because we do coordinate with the Suffolk County Health Department, and that standard is an important consideration for us as we're moving forward. Thank you.
Yeah, and one of the items in the DIS was a letter from Suffolk. They solicited comments from Suffolk County. They gave comments back of we want to see, in particular, a model of how this, not just the nitrogen loading, which they included, what they represented as the nitrogen loading, but they wanted to see how that impacts the bay there, which is an impaired water body for nitrogen.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think that letter was dated over a year ago, so they had time to incorporate a response into the DIS, but there wasn't one. So I think we'd want to see that in the final. All right, thanks.
Thank you so much. John, would like to say anything, or?
With this process has
Okay.
a final EIS, we'll respond to everyone that was on
Good.
this very easily.
Thank you.
There's no one else on Zoom?
Anybody else? There's no one on Zoom.
No one on Zoom?
Jackie, there is someone on Zoom now.
There is one person now?
Yes, one
Okay.
person.
Alicia Whitaker.
Alicia.
We see a name but no face, and we don't hear anything.
Is it muted? I can't see this.
There's no sound or no
No, there's
image.
just a black screen.
It's coming. It's coming.
There
Hi.
you are.
Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Alicia, give us your name.
Yes, hello. I'm Alicia Whitaker, 57 Baycrest Avenue, West Hampton. I'm also the president of the West Hampton Garden Club, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself and the club. We only recently reviewed the proposal and became aware of the issues, and we are hoping very much that you will decline this proposal. We think that there's incredible damage that may be done to the local ecosystem, the water table, the quality of the water in the canal and in the bay, the danger to wildlife and to people if a program, if a development of this density is allowed to be on this site, from our point of view, would be a disaster. We are citizen scientists and gardeners. We're not engineers. But I think the normal person with common sense can look at this and say, what are they thinking? The density, the impact, the fact that this would be built in an area that's already very vulnerable to the kind of storm damage that we're seeing and the realities of global warming would make it very imprudent for this kind of a project to be put into this location. You also have, as a group, have done a great job in preserving the rest of the Bayside aspect of Dune Road from Quogue to the Ponquag Bridge. This is a use that's incompatible with other things that exist there, mainly nature. Very few buildings that are grandfathered, but that have minor impact. So in conclusion, we're very hopeful that you decline this proposal and ask the developers and the owners to look at a land use that would have a much lower impact on our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else on Zoom?
No one else.
No one? Anyone else want to speak before we close this? Well, not close it. We're going to keep it open for 30 days, written comment period. So please send in, we got many emails from you all, but you can continue to send what you need to say.
Jackie, someone else just raised their hand. I'm sorry.
Okay, so we have one more Zoom.
That's right. They're coming on now.
Hello.
Yes, hello.
Hi, my name is Harris Cutler. I've been a resident at Round Dune for many, many years. I've been coming to Round Dune long enough that I can say that the Dockers that started is a lot bigger today than the Dockers that was. Aerial photos from time periods 2 decades ago to 1 decade ago to now show that it has expanded its footprint considerably. That said, it is a beautiful place that does a beautiful job that certainly appears that the denying of this project would not have such a terrible adverse effect on the people who own it. They have a booming business there. It is the most beautiful sunset in Long Island. But I will tell you that I've sat through this entire meeting and listening to the engineering reports. It is a very scary project, and I hope you guys will deny it.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Want to adjourn for 30 days?
Yes, we're going to keep this hearing open for 30 days for your written comments, and so I have a motion for that.
Yes, motion.
Dennis, motion by Dennis, second by Tom, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you very much, and thank you all for coming. It's important.
I know she turned her mic off. I'm reading first.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Hey, you certainly can. I was going to ask you, Sterling. Mr. Sterling, oh, what's his name, the engineer?
I can't open my emails from this point.
Yeah. Give these extras.
You have my email address?
Andrew.
Andrew, I have a bunch.
Kristen?
Does she have a copy of the engineer?
Yeah, we have it, yeah.
But this, for the record?
Yes. We have a whole ton. Anthony, did you get a copy of the engineer report? Okay. We're moving on to item number 2, 173 Norris subdivision. Do you want to read that into the record,
Sure.
David?
Please take notice that in accordance with local law 14 of 2022, a public hearing will be held by the Southampton Town Planning Board on Thursday, October 23rd, 2025, at 6 p.m. at Town Hall, 116 Hampton Road, Southampton, and via video conferencing to consider the final application entitled 173 Norris LLC. The application consists of a standard plan with 2 lots, with proposed Lot 1 containing 82,229 square feet and proposed Lot 2 containing 40,000 square feet, with both lots having frontage on Norris Lane in the R20 zoning district situated in the archaeological sensitive area located at 173 Norris Lane, Hamlet of Bridgehampton, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-71-2-17.
Thank you. Do we have sufficient notice, counsel?
You do.
I forgot to ask you. Thanks.
Where are all the people?
What's that?
Where are all the people?
I guess, yeah.
Thank you.
I guess they were shocked. I guess they were shocked by Ali G being given credit for check yourself before you wreck yourself. Because I think it goes back to a singer named Dion back in the '60s that was then appropriated by Ice Cube in 1993.
Wow, you're a
Telling me you suffered through cultural appropriation at its finest right there during the hearing. So, good evening, members of the board. Michael Senlensky of council to the Benincasa Group, 860 Montauk Highway, Watermill, New York, 11976 for the applicant. We have a proposed 2-lot subdivision on a substantially sized 122,229 square foot parcel. Lot 1 of the proposed two-lot subdivision would have 82,229 square feet, or 4.1 times the minimum required lot area. And Lot 2 would have an area of 40,000 square feet, which would be 2 times the minimum required lot area. This is an already developed parcel that contains a number of buildings. I think that the overhead that's on the board now, I think there may actually even be a more recent one. There's a house, single-family residence that's under construction currently on the southern portion of the overall lot. And I believe the parcels, the would-be parcel, the northern parcel, or the new parcel, already has had the structures that were there removed or in the process of being removed. This is a very simple subdivision. We're well within the bounds of what is permitted for as far as lot size for this. There's a tremendous amount of frontage on the lot. I will say currently there are 3 curb cuts, and we're asking for a 4th curb cut. So maintain the 3 on the southern parcel that's already under construction, and then just add 1/4 for the lot that's to the north.
I think we had some discussion about this, about all those curb cuts that you need, that
We
are pretty
originally
excessive.
had proposed 5, and that was our original proposal. And if we can maintain the 3 that are already there on the southern lot and just add 1 access point for the northerly lot, that would fit within our design scheme for the development of the parcels.
Isn't one going to a basketball court?
Right.
What's that?
One is going to a basketball court?
One serves as basically the service, as a service entry. And that currently exists, currently, there's currently 3 curb cuts on there. And that allows access, that's going to allow access to the rear of that property to service both the indoor recreational facility as well as the tennis court. Otherwise, you would have to, you would basically be servicing those from the U-shaped driveway that currently exists in the front of the property, which is a significant distance because of the size of this lot, that it's 4 times the size. It's 4 times the size of, a normal lot in the area, and required by zoning to do.
Okay, well, we'll discuss it more when it's in front of us. Any questions from the board?
No.
Is there anyone on Zoom?
No one.
Hearing no one, we'll close this with a 10-day written comment period. Motion by Dennis.
Second.
Second by
Gloria.
Glorian. So we're open 10 days. We'll close it after that.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Vanderbilt Park, we have a notice, council?
You do.
Okay. Anthony, is that you?
Yeah, I got to get up and speak on this one.
Okay.
This gentleman was looking
You want me
at
to read
town
it?
board, I think.
Hi, Tony. Oh, sorry, yes, please read. I was distracted by
please
our
take
former
notice.
postman. Tony.
That was on Narrow Lane?
Norris.
Norris Lane.
Narrow Norris.
Right.
Did you want to speak?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, because
okay.
I was on Narrow Lane, so.
Should we reopen?
Yeah, so we're reopening 173 Norris Lane. We did have a 10-day written comment period, but we'll let you speak into that.
Okay.
Those are screens. Just face us, Tony.
Okay,
Speak.
I'm just trying to figure out how you doing. I'm Tony Lambert. Used to live in Bridgehampton, and I used to live on Narrow Lane at 131 Narrow Lane. And I seen this going by. Sorry to say, but as the only one from Bridgehampton CAC, the only member of Bridgehampton CAC, I will be against this. We need more affordable housing in Bridgehampton, because we need stuff basically for veterans like myself. And if they can actually make that into like a tiny home subdivision, that would be great. Tiny homes is really popping up across the U.S., and it will be great. This right here, sorry to say, is going to be another monstrosity. All this is nothing but a big gigantical home. Someone's going to be here for at least like 2 to 3 weeks out the year, and they're not going to do anything productive in this town. It's not going to help us. You need people who actually live here to stay here. A lot of people are leaving Bridgehampton, Southampton town, and it's very, very sad. And no one is not saying, hey, why don't we go ahead and do something about it? No, you're letting people from the city with mega dollars come here, build houses, and do nothing with it. And people are coming from out west to create traffic jams, create the biggest traffic jams ever from Quogue all the way out to Montauk. That's appalling. It's hideous. Something has to give. If you do not do anything about this, then you're just gonna create more problems in the future. Kids will not be able to live here. No kids will not be able to live here, and that's the sad thing. No parents will have to move. Grandparents will have to leave because the taxes are getting too high. I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to see them like, oh yeah, let's go ahead and get this through. No, don't stop things, and say, hey, let's go ahead and think about the people. That's what I gotta say.
We hear you, Tony. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
So we have to re-vote on that, I think, right? Yeah,
I think
so
Same process again, just move to
there's
close
a
and leave it open for 10 days.
move
Leave it
to
open for
keep
10
this open for 10-day written comment period.
I'll
Motion
move.
by Dennis, second by Gloria. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Okay. Now we have an item that, from this afternoon, that we have to deal with.
Wait, we have one more.
We haven't done Vanderbilt
One more
Park.
Oh,
hearing.
we still have Vanderbilt Park.
Right.
Oh, I was about to go into that. Is there sufficient notice, council?
Yes.
Okay.
Please, Kate.
Please take notice that in accordance with local law number 14 of 2022, a public hearing will be held by the Southampton Town Planning Board on Thursday, October 23, 2025 at 6 p.m. at Town Hall, 116 Hampton Road, Southampton, and via video conferencing to consider the pre-application of an old filed map entitled 9 Columbia Avenue, aka Vanderbilt Park Map 655, Sections 6 and 7. The application consists of an amendment to an old file development map with 2 proposed lots. Lot 1, known as 7A, measuring 34,812 square feet of undeveloped land to be improved with a single-family dwelling, and Lot 2, known as 7B, measuring 15,205 square feet, previously developed with single-family dwelling in the R40 zoning district, the old filed map overlay district, and within the archaeological sensitive area located at 9 Columbia Avenue, Hamlet of West Hampton, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-354-3-29.
Anthony,
Yep,
I
since this is
believe
an old
it's
file
you.
map, the planning staff has to handle this, so. All right, so we've done a lot of work on Columbia Avenue, so you're familiar. This board, or a planning board, approved the development section, which included this property that you see here with the existing lot. And I have a copy of the map, and it shows that it's identified as, J7, 1 lot. The applicant is proposing to subdivide it to create basically whatever that was, approximately 15,000 and change around the existing lot, and then the bulk of it, which I think they said was, I forgot what the number was, the second lot. For the second lot,
34,812.
there you go. And so that's what they're doing. This is going to require, obviously, bringing in development rights to make the second lot buildable. And my guess is this property has a pretty long history going back to the zoning board, so my guess is maybe at the next meeting, Seth will have a work session, I'll be there so we can give, a little detail. But that's what the proposal is, so it's really just a second lot, requires development rights.
They're both substandard size.
Yes. That's all the case usually in the old file maps. They're usually 5 acre zoning, most of them.
But they have to bring
So this
development
is-
rights in.
So Anthony, do we leave this open for a comment? I have a Richard Bartel here.
He already left.
Okay,
He was listening, because he has a
Okay.
subdivision right up the road.
okay. So we'll leave this open?
I think you could close it.
Close it? With a
10
10,
days.
well,
Yeah.
I'm not closing it. It's open for 10 days.
10 days.
It's written comment period.
Yeah, you don't,
Yeah.
we don't close them.
So, motion by Gloria, and second by Kate, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you, and thank you, Anthony. Now we go into the NRP Holding Lot 1 site plan. And this was a resolution that we couldn't get to in this afternoon session, so we're dealing with it now. The Planning Board of the Town of Southampton hereby extends the deadline for the submission of plans for the site plan application, NRP Holding LLC Lot Number 1, until January 23rd, 2026, at the request of the applicant's representative. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Gloria and second by Kate. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 6 in favor, 1 absent.
You could read that same thing again and make it lot 2. There's
Lot
actually
2.
2 applications,
Right.
so. Oh, yeah, never mind. Okay. You-
Okay, okay. And the second one, resolve, the Planning Board of the Town of Southampton hereby extends the deadline for the submission of plans for the site plan application of NRP Holding LLC, Lot 2, Strebels, until January 23rd, 2026, at the request of the applicant's representative.
Motion.
Motion by Dennis, second by Gloria, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you. Motion to adjourn by Gloria, second by Kate. All in favor?
Aye.
6 in favor, 1 absent. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go to the zoning.